being a custodian of these old cars, I guess it's very much like being the custodian of the Forth Bridge. The maintenance is continual. And we're just dropping this one off right now for a valet and some paintwork. So the maestro Mark from Enhanced Detailing is taking my pride and joy, my garage queen, and he's going to turn it into something spectacular. Mark always does a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Very
Mark.
much appreciated.
Well, welcome to Tuesday morning on Bike Racing Without Mercy. On the deck is going to be an all-body strength training followed by a little bit of zone 2 on the bike. Now personally, I'm a firm advocate of strength training in terms of health, longevity, but also the benefits for cyclists. Clearly, a nice little cross training to add a little bit of power and muscle and strength has obvious benefits. But I do hear people say, well, what about the risks of bulking up and reducing your watts per kilogram? Well, to that I say, I'm personally not a pro cyclist, a GC contender who's paid to win races. Therefore, having a slight upper body is less of a concern for me. But additionally, it's really, really difficult to put on muscle and bulk up, especially of all the kilometers we're undertaking on the bike. Therefore, I think the benefits of strength training, all body strength training, are numerous as follows. So all body strength training can help a cyclist build a little bit of muscle, but also you're using energy and burning off calories during the training and long after, and that burns off body fat. An improved body composition, i.e. an improved ratio of lean body mass to body fat, is linked to improved insulin sensitivity and therefore a better ability for the body to process food and carbohydrates to create energy. A good thing for cyclists. Strength training is also linked to stronger bones, and stronger bones are less prone to injury, another great benefit. I also like to throw in probably once a week one upper body only strength training day in order to give the lower body a rest and therefore help the process of recovery and enable me to go harder on, for example, a tough interval session the next day on the bike. Additionally, if you focus on predominantly, as I do, the compound movements that are working multiple muscle groups at the same time, and you focus on good form and gradually improving your range of motion, over time you're going to improve your movement patterns, improve your flexibility, and again reduce the risk of injury. And clearly for cyclists, the lower body training has great applicability in terms of building strength and power, which translates to strength and power through the crank and better ability to punch during a race. Now as a cyclist, I'm a huge advocate of all variants of the deadlift. The deadlift is a massive bang for your buck exercise, working multiple muscle groups at the same time. In particular, the back, the core, the glutes, the hamstrings, and a little bit of quads. And when I'm looking forward to my climbing events in September, I know that over that 5,000 meters of climbing, there's going to be a lot of time spent up and out the saddle, so core strength is going to be important. But additionally, even when you're in the saddle, you can feel a lot more involvement of the glutes and the hamstrings. And often the core, the glutes and the hamstrings are getting neglected when we're on the bike, especially when we're seated and it's all quite quad dominant. So today's variant of the deadlift is going to help with the preparation for the Marmotte, and in particular, it's a really big bang for your buck variant of the deadlift. It's a trap bar deadlift, my personal favourite. You stood right in the middle of the bar. So unlike the conventional deadlift, the bar is not dragging you forwards and therefore there is reduced risk of the back rounding and reduced risk of injury. Additionally, for this variant of the trap bar deadlift, I'm going to have these handlebars facing upwards, and that reduces the range of motion. Means you need a little bit less flexibility to get down and into position to initiate the movement, but also you're lifting the bar through less range of motion, and that makes it a little bit easier. But additionally, by having the handlebars facing upwards, it makes the move a little bit more quad involved than if you had the handlebars facing downwards. And so basically you're getting two incredible movements for the price of one, i.e. a lot of the benefits of a squat and most of the benefits of a deadlift. So, double bubble basically. And now I'm going to explain how I'm using the trap bar deadlift here to create power and strength, but without creating muscle fatigue and potentially compromising my training on the bike tomorrow. And so for me personally, I want to make sure that the strength training for the lower body is accretive to my main objective, which is the climbing events in the summer. And that means I don't want to adversely impact my cycling training, my interval session tomorrow. That means I don't want to go anywhere close to failure on the lower body movements, because if you take the muscles to failure, you increase the fatigue in the muscles, and that will reduce the power I'm able to deploy tomorrow. Additionally, the closer you go to failure, especially with a big compound lift, the greater the risk of injury, the greater the risk of your form breaking down, and with a deadlift, your back rounding. And for obvious reasons, nobody needs that. The other main emphasis during this lift will be on a nice, fast, explosive, powerful movement, i.e. getting that bar moving as quickly as possible with good form and extending through with the glutes and hamstrings as quickly as possible to finalize the movement, because it's that powerful, explosive movement that's going to create the punch and the power on the bike that will help both on the climb, but also in terms of those explosive accelerations in Zwift races. I'm going to demonstrate the movement now. Stood right in the center of the bar, toes pointing slightly out, knees out over the toes. We want to get our chest up and our shoulders back, and we take a deep breath in through the nose and the mouth, and we fill the core with air, and we want to brace the abs. And then we grab the center of the handles as tightly as we can, getting our fingers all the way around, and we rock onto our toes and then onto our heels. And we bring our lats back and we drive our chest up, and we want to lock the back out. By getting the chest up and the lats tensed, we should feel the back locking out and the lower back. As follows. And then we push the ground away from us with our feet and extend through with the hips. Through with the hips. Keeping the knees out over the toes throughout the movement. It's hard work, and you can see there that the bar speed remained fairly consistent and fast throughout. The moment the bar speed slows, stop the set, because if the bar speed's slowing, you're getting closer to muscle failure and also potentially risking injury. That too, 34.09. Well, last week was a really tough week in terms of the cycling. I had scheduled 2 very tough threshold training sessions plus a sweet spot session midweek. Then on a Saturday, the race turned into basically a 1-hour FTP, where I put down a personal best in terms of watts per kilogram over the hour and came close to my best in terms of absolute power. Then on a Sunday, I had that 2.5-hour training session outdoors, a sweet spot session, and including getting to and from the venue, that left me very fatigued by Monday. So I took a full day of rest as is usual for me. Now this morning, I've been hoping to encourage the process of recovery by not taking the lower body strength training anywhere close to failure, but also rounding off the all body training with some very high cadence work here on the WattBike. And this is Victor Campanart's suggestion. By keeping the cadence up at 120 RPM, you create a good neuromuscular connection and aid the process of recovery. And I definitely found during the Zwift race on Saturday that my cadence was much higher and I felt better for it. So it seems to be bearing out that particular assertion. And secondly, I've been finding just generally, if I have 15 to 30 minutes of very high cadence work the day before a very hard cycling training or a cycling race, I'm all the better for it. I think it's about getting blood into the muscles. Either which way, I'm really enjoying it. And it is actually quite challenging to sustain the 120 RPM. And this is the first time I've gone beyond 20 minutes, averaging more than 120 RPM. So it's a good little challenge and makes a zone 1, zone 2 day that much more fun. Anyway, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you would. But for me, it's now time for the post-ride nutrition and recovery, plus to get on with some work. Cheers.
Well, it's Wednesday morning and Ed has set me 2.5 ascents of Alp Du Zwift at 4 watts a kilogram. Now I've just completed 2 of them. On the first I reckon I was in the 255 to 260 range. I had just over 4 watts a kilogram. But the second was better. I reckon I was 265 to 275. I don't know, 4.1 watts a kilogram. Time, circa 47.5 to 48 minutes for both of those. So I'm feeling good. Therefore, rather than a final half ascent, I'm going to go for a third full ascent. Let's see how I go. Coming towards the end of the third climb, I've certainly been in the 4 watts a kilogram power range. Coming up to 3,000 meters now. Quietly confident that I'm going to complete the 3 reps with decent quantity. There's the averages just there. Well, I found the 3 ascents at 4 watts a kilogram a little bit easier than envisaged. Definitely the descent in between the second and third ascents gives you a lot of recovery. And I think that's why I found it a tad easier. I also reinforced a valuable lesson regarding pacing. The legs were not feeling great ahead of the first ascent, which was fasted on just the amino acids and cold coffee. So I rode well within myself in the kind of 245 to 270 watt range. And I found that by staying seated, maintaining a nice high cadence of 90 RPM or more, by the top end of the climb, the legs were feeling a hell of a lot better. So I carbed up on the descent, 44 grams of carbs, a little bit of coffee in that as well. And when I hit the second climb, and the same applies to the third climb, when I carved up ahead of that as well, the legs were feeling good. I was able to maintain that nice high cadence, and I was kind of 10 watts to 15 watts more on the second and third climbs than the first. And you can see the power profiles. That first ascent, probably about 48.30. Second ascent, 47.30. Third ascent, 46.39. And including the 2 descents, average power 247, just under 3 hours, a lot of calories burned, and 3,150 meters of climbing. So very happy with that, and I'm sure when I look at the Training Peaks data, I'll be comfortably above the 4 watts a kilogram. I think that 4th ascent is definitely going to be difficult. I might make a 5th ascent so I can hit 5,000 meters of climbing, as it were, kind of equivalent to La Marmotte. But we'll see how the training goes over the next few weeks. And a quick look at the critical power graph confirms that my best ascent, the third one, 46.39, was 269 watts, about 4.2, 4.3 watts a kilogram. Well, I'm back at enhanced detailing, and it's fair to say that Mark has literally surpassed himself this time in terms of bringing up the condition of the paintwork and future-proofing it for years to come. The job is absolutely stupendous. And now for the maestro himself to give us a few words.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to work on the car. Working on an old car, the beauty of it is you actually see the results. It starts off one way, and then you know you're working on a piece of history and bringing it back to how it should be. So being able to machine polish this, then apply the ceramic coatings and bring it back to this, it brings a smile to my face, and it brings a smile to your face when you're driving it.
100%, yeah, no. If you could see the smile here, it's a big one, it's ear to ear.
I hope you enjoy it.
Well, this morning I'm feeling a little bit withered and very hoarse, as you can hear, because yesterday was a 3 ascents up Alp Du Zwift at 4 watts a kilogram, so it's a full rest day. I also checked out the video footage from enhanced detailing, and it's fair to say that the strobe lighting that Mark needs in order to spot all the imperfections in the paintwork and bring them out also doesn't make for the easiest on the eye viewing. Therefore I've come here in order to do justice to his work. And Mark has surpassed himself in terms of correcting the imperfections in the 25-year-old paintwork, making it pop, and also protecting it for years to come with a ceramic coating. And I reckon it now looks just as good as it would 25 years ago, rolling off the production line at Maranello. You can see here, no swirls or scratches or anything like that. There was like little white marks appearing under some of the arches here and to the rear, stone chips here, more kind of white marks manifesting themselves here, all gone now. This is always quite a nice angle.